What's up, Fish Tank people? FishtankTV.com. Dustin's Fish Tanks, bringing it to you on a Sunday, baby. How's everybody doing? I hope you're doing well. We've talked about some thug fish. We've talked about some pissed off fish. Today we're talking about the Plecos. Three quick things. First, let me start off by saying I haven't actually kept a lot of these Plecos, though I have been around a lot of people who have kept them. So I'm gonna need your help in the comments on your thoughts, feelings, or experiences keeping a lot of these Plecos. Second, not all Plecos are the same, not all Plecos diets are the same, and nothing pisses me off more than when someone says, I got algae in my tank, I'm just gonna get the Pleco, it'll eat all the algae. No. Your lack of maintenance and not taking care of your tank getting algae is your problem, not the Pleco. Don't go passing your fish tank problems onto some Pleco because you don't do the work. And third, I don't keep a lot of these fish because I like fish that actually come and greet me and ask me how my day was going. Plecos aren't exactly the first one out to say, hey dad, how was it going today? And finally, for all you scientific fish tank nerds out there that want to get specific on the actual species name, I am lumping the generic term Plecos together to include Ancestress, Ancestress, Plecostomus, etc. We're just talking Plecos in general as a blanket term. With that said, here are my top 10 Plecos. My number 10 Pleco in my top 10 favorite Plecos, I am talking about the bushy nose Pleco. Look, if I was a fish swimming above this fish and I looked down and saw this fish with its big freak thing on the front of its face coming out, I wouldn't go anywhere near it. The bushy nose Pleco, hence the name with the thing on the front. I've actually got a couple of bushy nose Plecos that are real small in the 220. 220's not behind me. It doesn't matter if it was because you wouldn't be able to see the fish regardless. Apparently these fish breed like crazy, although I haven't ever actually done it. Apparently all you need is a Pleco cave. I know they breed like crazy because every time I go to a fish tank convention, there's always somebody in their room selling a giant bag of bushy nose Pleco offspring. And if you do happen to run across this type of person, pick up this fish. Why should you pick up this fish? It's simple. Unlike a lot of the Plecos that I'm about to talk about, the bushy nose Pleco, to both my personal experience and the experience of others, is not going to eat and devour your plants. It actually is a hardcore algae eater. So the bushy nose Pleco looks sweet and will actually eat algae and not the actual plants in your tank. Bushy nose Pleco, my 10, maybe should have been higher. My number 10 best Plecos. And my number 9 in my top 10 favorite Pleco fish, I'm talking about the rubber nose Pleco, aka the bulldog Pleco, aka one of the fattest pound for pound algae eating Plecos you're ever gonna see. My number 8 in my top 10 favorite Plecos, I'm talking about the Royal Pleco. This is my reaction unscripted when I saw Royal Pleco when I was out in Colorado earlier this year. I've never kept a Royal Pleco, but man, that's a cool fish. Good for you, man. That Royal Pleco's awesome. Yeah, I've never kept one.
Trade for a baby green dragon.
Dude.
Oh, no kidding. Oh,
really?
Wow.
That's a deal and a half. You won that deal.
Yeah, easily.
Wow, that's a beautiful fish. That's a fish I need to get. I've never kept a Royal Pleco. I need to buy one of those. The Royal Pleco has an awesome color pattern in and of itself without even looking at its eye. But then Mother Nature decided to add a really sweet bright orange eye to this fish, just making it fabulous. The Royal Pleco was first discovered in 1877. I'm a history major, that's a little bit after the Civil War, and what that means is that the Royal Pleco has been a baller for over 140 years. Royal Pleco, if anybody's keeping a Royal Pleco out there, please drop me some comments on its behavior, temperament, food, and does it eat plants? I hear it doesn't, but I want your comments on the Royal Pleco. Oh my goodness. If you see a Royal Pleco in the shops, pick it up and buy it. Royal Pleco, my number 8 favorite Pleco. My number 7 in my top 10 favorite Plecos, I'm talking about the green dragon Pleco. I saw this fish at 2 places, my man Bob Grauer's house out in Colorado back in the day, and at the fish tank legend the sage of live bears, Mr. Greg Sage, out in Colorado, and he was actually breeding and selling these on his website, Select Aquatics. Greg had an extensive collection of these fish and actually was breeding them like crazy. This is actually footage from his YouTube channel. You can click links around here and check out his YouTube channel. But I love the long fins, love the dark color. When I saw them, they were actually darker than this footage right here. But green dragon plecos, ooh, don't get as big as some of the larger plecos either, and I believe they're plant safe, but I could be wrong on that. Let me know in the comments if they are actually a plant eater or not. Green dragon pleco, my number 7 favorite in my top 10 plecos. My number 6 in my top 10 plecos. Folks, you have to check out the gold nugget pleco. My dude Spencer had this fish back in the day in college. He used to take his dank nuggets and look at his gold nugget pleco. Oh my goodness, like the best yellow I've ever seen on a pleco. If I'm wrong, please correct me on that. The gold nugget pleco, I believe the gold nugget pleco, and correct me if I'm wrong on this folks in the comments, I believe the gold nugget pleco actually requires a little bit of meat in its diet. This fish is like 69 bucks on liveaquaria.com, worth every penny in my humble opinion. My only problem with it is you don't really see it that much, but when you do, bam, gold nugget pleco in your face. My number 5 in my top 10 plecos. Talking about the pink Ancestress pleco. Oh my goodness, this one is hard for me to talk about, folks, because I actually acquired some of this fish from my man Chuck Bramer. He was kind enough to give me like 3 or 4 of them, and I had them in my 220 for quite a long time. The pink Ancestress pleco was bred with a bunch of calicos that kind of developed this pink, and he kept breeding and breeding and breeding them, and people have finally bred the pink, like pink looking pleco. Love this fish. Was actually a little more active than most Ancestress that I've seen in the past. I actually had this fish in the 220. I had about 3 of them. Some were the calico variety and some are the ones that were just plain pink. Totally loved it. Good little algae eater, pound for pound. Now it was this big in a 220, so it wasn't doing that much work. Sadly, these fish died a tragic death when the chlorine levels were spiked by my city. Even though I was dosing dechlor, I wasn't dosing enough, and I found them laying on their sides. Pink Ancestress pleco, drop me a comment if you're keeping them. I hear they're easy to breed too. Pink Ancestress pleco, my number 5 in my top 5 plecos. My number 4 in my top 10 favorite plecos of all time. I don't even need to talk about this fish. Look at this fish. This fish is sick as Let my Mike D from Imperial talk about this fish. Oh my goodness, I love red on plecos. This fish dominates. Oh my goodness.
These guys have some wicked spines on them. Nice. This is a these are actually a meat-eating pleco, so they don't eat algae.
So what do you feed it?
Well, we feed it a lot of like frozen shrimps. They eat frozen brine. Mussels is what they like eating. In the wild, they crack the shells with their teeth. Their teeth are designed to like crack open shells and eat the insides of them. So like scallops would be freshwater mussels is usually what they diet on.
What's their temperament like? What do they live with? Teeth. Like what do you put them with?
They go with any types of fish. They can hold their own.
With cichlids, they can hold their own?
Yeah, well, South American fish. So like I recommend people keeping South American fish with South American fish. Right. So like you wouldn't want to throw him in a tank with African cichlids.
Right, but is he going to eat neons?
Nah, he wouldn't eat neons. They're too hard to catch, you know. So you could put them in a bigger community tank. They usually feed in the wild on dead stuff or shells or stuff like that. So I mean, these guys are eating just regular sinking pellets. So yeah, they're real easy to maintain and a real trophy.
They're prize.
They're wicked.
Nice.
Now they will fight with other, plecos. Like the other one that I have in there is all beat up from this guy.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, because they just competing for territory. 2 males, you know.
My number 3 favorite pleco, my top 10 favorite plecos on a Species Sunday. I'm talking about the zebra pleco. Now look, I believe this fish just got a little bit cooler because if I'm not mistaken, it's illegal to import now. So the zebra pleco is now harder to get, harder to breed. You can see the footage here and listen to my man Dean talk about this when I was out in Seattle. Love the black and white, just hardcore contrast on this fish. I'm not sure, like, I'm trying to hypothesize on this with you all. Maybe you can drop me a comment on the zebra pleco. Like, what is the biological advantage of being black and white and look like that in the wild? I feel like this fish is at a disadvantage of this. But drop me a comment on the zebra pleco if you bred them, if you've seen them for sale, what they're costing, the whole deal. Love me some zebra pleco. I mean,
L46.
L46s.
The Holy Grail.
So the Holy Grails of zebra plecos.
It's my third time having those. The first time I had them back in the 80s when they first came in the hobby.
Okay.
I got them all the way up to spawning size, and we moved to Ohio, so we sold the whole fish room. And these are probably about 6 months from breeding, I'm guessing.
And my number 2 in my top 10 favorite plecos, it goes like this. Back in about 2003, I was down at Ohio University. I made my return to aquariums with a 29-gallon cichlid tank. In that tank, I added Brichardi, convict cichlids, Maniguense cichlids, and a peacock cichlid that ultimately had one eye. And guess who I added at the bottom of the tank? That's right, Hippostomus plecostomus, a straight up regular gangster pleco, the plain Jane 249 variety of plecostomus that you see at your local pet store. That's right, I had that fish, and guess what? Last year, I finally got a call from my dad, personal phone call from my pops to let me know that Pete the pleco that he had been keeping for over 14 years finally passed away. The plain Jane, always there for you, always available in Peru. In Peru, this fish is considered a delicacy if it has its egg sacs available. Come on, number 2 favorite pleco. I'm talking about the plain Jane simple pleco you can get for $2.49. But why did that pleco live for 14 years? Well, it's simple. My pleco theory. My pleco theory is this. Plecos are like that giant quiet dude at the bar that's huge but wouldn't hurt a fly unless you messed with them. And I believe that Pete's 14-year existence was because of just this. When you drop a pleco in the tank, it's like, nah, son, the bottom is his now. Plain Jane Hippostomus pleco, my number 2 favorite pleco. And my number 1, my top 10 favorite plecos, I don't even know what my number 1 favorite is. There's so many different varieties, so do me a favor. You pick the number 1 pleco. Drop me a comment on what pleco you think is the best. There's so many varieties, L series. There's too many to list, so drop me a comment on what pleco you think is the best. Hit the like button, subscribe button, share button, and tank on, you pleco people. Later.